Joining me now to weigh in from Washington is the national spokesperson for America First Action, former spokesperson for the Donald Trump presidential campaign. Katrina Pierson is with us. Katrina, good morning to you. Good to have you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Your thoughts on the president's trip so far, $250 billion in deals. He's got a number of companies obviously traveling with him.
Of course, and this is what we call winning in Trump world, Maria. This is something that the president has stated time and time again throughout the entire campaign, and now he is once again keeping his promises. And he was right. He's never claimed that everyone else was at fault for what was happening to our country with regards to the trade deficits and such. And he went over there and said to their faces, you know, this is what's happening. It can't happen anymore. It's not fair. It's not right. But you know what? It is our fault. Our leaders of the past have made very bad trade deals, and he's here to renegotiate.
So, Andrew Peak, your thoughts on this trip?
Well, I thought it was a terrific trip itinerary. I was wondering why, is there any specific message he's going to take to Vietnam after China, which is a close rival of the Chinese and a country where the U.S. Really wants to grow its security and economic relationship over the next couple of years?
Well, what I think you're going to see is the president really maintain his entire discussion. He wants to make sure that the world knows that the United States is under a very different kind of leadership. He's going to be putting the American people first, and he wants to make sure that our allies know that we will support them in times of need.
Katrina, I have a question with regard to North Korea, which is particularly concerning. And I'm wondering your thoughts with regard to the doctrine of mutually assured destruction. That's something that was used in the Cold War with Russia. And your thoughts with regard to its effectiveness with someone like a dictator like North Korea.
Well, this is definitely something that has gone to new heights, particularly under the Trump administration, which I think is another reason why he is talking to China, and he does want China to do more with regards to North Korea. And this president is committed to doing everything possible diplomatically to kind of level those efforts there. And I think what we're going to see moving forward is, as he said yesterday, that this is unacceptable and we're not going to tolerate this kind of behavior. The United States is definitely going to put its people first and protect itself if necessary. So I'm looking very forward to the remainder of this trip. And I'm really excited to see a president that is really out there standing up for our people.
Yeah, it's a good point. I want to turn to tax reform. That's obviously going to be front and center. House Republicans are continuing to hammer out details during this so-called markup period. It includes scaling back a corporate tax avoidance provision. Senate Republicans set to reveal their plan later today. Diggin, I want to get your take on this. If we were to see the Senate phase in the corporate rate 20% just by 1 year,
right,
it feels like businesses are okay with that.
As long as it doesn't expire, as long as it's a full phase-in, not a step-by-step phase-in. You have to wait a year. Businesses could start planning in advance of that. But much in the Senate bill is said to be differing from the House bill. A few things I'll point out. There will be a full repeal of the state and local tax deduction and the property tax deduction. There will not be any $10,000 concession on property taxes, which you see in the House bill. The Senate Republicans are not planning to completely eliminate the estate tax. And then there are going to be more tax brackets than the 4 currently in the House bill. And the Senate bill, you just mentioned that 20% excise tax on businesses that's in the corporate tax plan on the House. The Senate side is going to get rid of that completely. Right. Rather than tweak it, it just won't be in there.
So they get rid of what the New York Times called this atomic bomb, excise tax. They also get rid of the bubble tax, that 45.6%. And also I'm hearing that they may lower taxes, the top rate. They're hoping to get to 37%, actually, on the top rates. These are just expectations from sources. Cutting the top rate from 39.6 to 37% is what we're expecting to come out of this Senate plan. The question is how quickly can this bill move once it drops from the Senate? Does the House just agree with the changes? And does this move quickly through the process? Katrina.
Well, no, I'm not quite sure how quickly it's going to move, simply because this is the swamp, Maria, and what we're seeing are the swamp creatures going to their legislators, and it's really causing a lot of havoc, which is why you see a stark difference in what the Senate is producing compared to what the House is producing. The president has said very, very simple. He wants to cut taxes for the middle class.
Right.
He wants to simplify the tax code. And now we're in this whole mess of all of the politicians trying to please their special interest groups. And this is one of the reasons why President Trump won this election, is because he wasn't beholden to any of those lobbyists. And now we're seeing the lobbyists sort of step in and try to take the reins. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, what I want to see is if they make any changes on the carried interest, which of course has been a real issue because people say that hedge fund managers, real estate managers can actually manipulate their income and show what is really ordinary income to be capital gains and pay just a 20%. We'll see about that. But look, you got to say these guys are working very hard to get something done, both on the House and the Senate side. What do you think? Is this going to be a plan that markets will like or not?
It has to be permanent. I agree with Dagan. If they try to fill the gap by making it temporary or phasing in, then it's an epic fail.
Well, it's probably going to be a phase-in by a year.
Well,
and that's 1 year, I think, is fine.
Yeah, I think the markets will be okay with that.
Yeah.
But if it's phased out by year 5, 8, or even 10, then you don't get that incentive to repatriate massive amounts of offshore unearned earnings, undeclared earnings.
Katrina, did the losses on Tuesday, did that frighten these Republicans enough to get something done? They had to have looked at Virginia and said, whoa, Ed Gillespie got shellacked in counties like Loudoun that he actually won when he was running for Senate.
You know, I hope it did. I hope they paid attention to the simple fact that the Trump agenda wasn't fully embraced in that, and you saw a lot of those people not turn out. The margin between the Trump loss versus the Gillespie loss was much wider, and I think that should speak volumes to them, particularly when this is something that, Dagan, you and I both know this president has been saying since day one of his campaign, what he wanted to do. And he was able to bring in not only new voters, but people who voted for Barack Obama, people who supported Bernie Sanders during the primary. These are the things that people want. And the GOP leadership needs to get it done.
Yeah, I think you all make a really good point. I mean, that election yesterday definitely did get people talking about what does this mean for 2018.
I just really want to quickly point out that there were groups of people who came out for the Democrats in, say, Virginia, who did not come out for Hillary Clinton. You're talking about millennials, suburban moms. There were a lot of groups who came out to vote for Ralph Northam in Virginia who were not there for Hillary. I'm not saying that was an anti-Trump movement, but it was showing that people were anti-Hillary.
They want change.
And they're pro anybody else in the Democratic Party other than Hillary Clinton.
Which is a hard question on the tax cuts, because I haven't seen any poll that says they're more favorable than unfavorable. So how does passing something like that increase popularity, even though you get something done?
If you keep the economy running. It's on the corporate side. If you keep the economy firing on all cylinders and actually increase growth from the 3% rates that we've seen in the last 2 quarters, that's what's ultimately
we see a better economy next year. We see growth actually move to sustain at 3% and actually move above that. We see more job creation. They'll be in better shape, for sure. Katrina Pierson, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Great to be here. Thank you.